Iyer, and I am the founder and director of a civic technology organization based in Kampala called Policy. And I'm very passionate and enthusiastic about using data to tell better stories, whether that's in reports or whether that's online. So today I want to share with you a little bit of this expertise. And the way that will work is we'll go through a little bit of the history of data viz, and then I'll give you some examples of charts, and then we'll have a brief demo on using a freemium tool called Infographics, and then I'll teach you a little bit about best practices, and then we'll have a quiz as promised. So I'll just get started. All right, can everyone see my screen? Yes. All right, great. All right, so as I mentioned, this is a data visualization webinar for beginners, so we'll go through some more basic concepts, and thank you very much to TechSoup for hosting me and giving me this opportunity. So first of all, let's talk about data. Data has become really common. You keep hearing, sentences like data is the new oil, data is more precious than petroleum. So there is a lot of value in data, and there's a lot of value in us learning not just how to collect, analyze, but also how do we give this information back to our audiences. So more and more we're finding that we must be trained on how to use data and how to speak data. And going back, data viz, you see the hashtag all the time, it's becoming really popular, but data visualization has been around for a while. Human beings collect information very visually, and so that's why showing the data more visually really works. And it's been around for a while, and I'll give you one of the most basic examples. So I studied epidemiology, which is a study of disease trends, and this gentleman would show up all the time. He is kind of one of the fathers of public health, and his name is John Snow. And around this time in England, people were dying from cholera, and this was when we didn't really know what was really causing diseases. And so people were thinking, is it airborne? Is it waterborne? Do you get it by touching someone else? And so he decided to collect data on where these cases were happening. So he essentially took a map of the area, and he went to each household and found out how many people died around that area, and for each death, he marked it on the map. And so if we take a closer look at the map, you'll see that in some areas, there are much more deaths than others. And he found out that in this red area right in the middle, there was a pump. And so they thought, could the source of the disease be this water pump? Could it be contaminated? And when they shut off the water pump, the cases actually declined. And that's how they found out that cholera is actually waterborne, and that the treatment really is having better, cleaner drinking water. So that's one of the big examples that we have, that he didn't have any high-tech tools, he didn't have GIS skills, and he was able to put this together and really, really make a breakthrough in public health. So I hope you're already really excited about it. And the other really big name in data viz is Hans Rosling, and he has this really beautiful quote that says, "Few people will appreciate the music if I just show them the notes. Most of us need to listen to the music to understand how beautiful it is. But often that's not how we present statistics. We just show the notes, we don't play the music." Isn't that so poetic? So basically saying, just having a report that has all your data isn't really going to blow people's minds. So maybe having more visualizations can really bring out, all the work that you've done and showcase that to your audience. And Hans Rosling is really well known for these kinds of maps that he made. He has a TED Talk that has, I think, more than 12 million views. And he's really, he passed away in 2017, but he really was a proponent of using data viz and just showing, how much poverty affects development on many different scales. And in this map, he's showing how you can see each country is colored, and it goes through time, showing you from, we can restart it. Oh, can't. Showing you how, when time moves, that basically some countries fared really well and some didn't, and the life expectancy in some increased while a lot of countries in Africa actually didn't. So he's taken a lot of information and put it into one animated GIF. it's now GIF, and it holds so much data that has been collected for decades. So that's also really exciting. And now moving into some tools, we no longer have to, when he made this, of course, there were specialized tools that had to be created, but now we have a lot of tools that are actually free or almost free. And some of the ones that I wanted to highlight are Canva, Infogram, Flourish, Raw Graphs, Tableau, and Google Sheets. And of these, you can use most or all of them for free to some extent. So, for example, of course, Google Sheets is totally free, Raw Graphs is totally free. The other ones, you can use them, but if you want more features, then you have to pay a low monthly fee, which in my opinion is really worth it in the end if you do end up creating a lot of visualizations. And just to give you an example of the power of these platforms, for example, Tableau Public, it's actually free. The only downside is that anything you create has to be public, which for some people that might not matter, but for some others that can. But it allows you to create really beautiful visualizations at really low cost, and the learning curve is not that steep. So you can really create beautiful maps such as this without having any extensive GIS skills. Here's another example showing you Infogram, which I'll show you a bit later. And this is even easier. You just need to set up an account, and you only need one value. You just need the name of your country, and you need the value that you're interested in. And just with that, you can create maps, within minutes. So it's really exciting where we've come. And of course, our good old Google Sheets, totally free. Anyone with a Gmail account can use it, and it's actually really powerful. And you can create some really beautiful maps and charts using it. So I definitely recommend giving it a go, because I think most of us do have access to a Gmail account. So getting into the meat of things, what is data visualization? Why are we here? It's essentially presenting data visually to better understand patterns, trends, and correlations. So it's not just to convey information, sometimes it's also to predict and to monitor whatever data that you're interested in. And I'll give you some examples of chart types. So there's 4 main chart types. I think people have different opinions on this, but I like to categorize them in these ways. The first one that we see most is categorical. So this is when you have a number of categories, 2 or more categories, and you have a quantitative value. So example, you have men and women, your categories, and maybe how many hamburgers they eat per year, right? So then you can map that out based on each category. And then we have relational. So this is more about correlations and connections. So how do 2 different variables correlate to each other? For example, how does the budget of a movie correlate to how much money the movie is going to make in sales, right? So those 2 variables, how are they related to each other? And then we have temporal, which shows you trends over time. So whenever you have a date or you have a year, you can make predictions over time, or you can show what's happened over that time span. So that's temporal. And the last one that's becoming really popular now is spatial, which is all about mapping. So showing information on maps. Anything related to that is spatial. And here are some basic examples. This is categorical. As I mentioned, you have 4 categories here, A, B, C, D, and they each have different quantitative values. This is a very basic chart that we see all the time. It's a bar chart, and it falls under the categorical category. Here we have relational. So we have an x-axis, a y-axis. So the x-axis is the horizontal one, and the y-axis is vertical, and we are comparing the values based on those variables. And you can also introduce a third variable by the size of your point, right? So this enables you to have not just 2, but 3 different variables on the same chart. And then we have temporal, and this is a very basic timeline showing you activities that happened in the year 96 to 2014. I think this is quite common. We often see it in infographics showing what's happened in an organization or a timeline that's unfolded in politics. So we see this quite often. And then the last one is spatial. So this is just showing you a basic map that has different values overlaid on top of it. And now I'll go into some examples of these charts that I've shown you. So as I mentioned, the bar chart, categorical with quantitative variables. And here is the first example. It's the world's top 10 most used emojis on Facebook. And so you can see that the most used emoji is, I think it's called smiling with happiness or crying with happiness. And I definitely agree because I use it all the time. What's interesting about this chart, it shows you the 10 emojis, but it doesn't really give you any values. So you know which is the most used, but you don't really know by how much, right? Because there's no axes. But it does give you the idea, and it's cute and it's simple, right? So sometimes it's all about simplicity. The next example is a line chart, which is, as I mentioned before, relational because we have the X and the Y axis. And here we're using a line to connect the points, unlike a scatter plot where there's just points all over the place. And here's an example that I really like. And it says, what happened to women in computer science? And if you see at the bottom, something's blocking my screen. But basically, sometime in the 80s, women somehow stopped being interested in computer science. So women were on the same trajectory, going to medical school, going to law school, and then something happened and the number of women in computer science plummeted. Until today, we are actually trying to catch up and get women interested in computer science. And what you'll realize from this chart is it tells us that something happened in that decade that made women disinterested in computer science. But it doesn't tell us what, right? So this has been a question it's gnawing at me what happened. I have a theory that that's when video games were released, and video games were marketed very highly towards boys, and that's around the time women may have dropped off interest in computer science. But that's just my theory. I don't really know. The next chart is a stacked bar chart. So it's when you not only have categories, but you have categories in both directions. So I'll show you an example. This chart shows the amount of money that you earn based on what you studied. And it also shows you how much you're likely to start out earning as well. And you can see it by the different percentiles. So if you studied chemical engineering or economics, you're likely to make the most money as compared to somebody who studied music or religion or any of the other arts. Another interesting thing is if you look at the physician assistant, it seems that you're likely to start out earning a lot of money, but then over time, you're not likely to make the same advances in other careers. So they've taken a lot of information and put it together in one chart, showing you the different percentiles. So that's the example of a stacked bar chart. And then here we have a scatter plot chart. And I really like this example. It's from a website called, I think, Data is Beautiful. And it shows you the popularity of dog breeds and how good the dog is. So they've given each dog a rank, a score, based on their intelligence, how long they live, how easy they are to groom, their appetite, and their cost. And it's really cool. And not only that, so as I mentioned, so we have the two axes, popularity going up, and we have their data score. But you also have the size of the dog. You also have the intelligence of the dog, depending on which direction it's facing. And you also have the type of the dog based on the color. So think about all this information that we have on one chart just by tweaking things a little bit. And so I have a Doberman at home, and they're very popular, but they're not that great apparently. They're only midway on the data score, but very popular. And I do love my dog. So check out where your dog falls on this ranking and let me know. The next chart is a pie chart, and this is a very controversial chart because some people love the pie chart and some people say never use the pie chart. But it's one of the ones that we see all the time. And if you must use a pie chart, my advice is don't use it if it has more than 5 pies. I have actually seen people put pie charts that have like 50 pie slices in one chart, and that's just crazy because that's not the right chart to use then. Oftentimes, instead of a pie chart, a bar chart can be used or a line chart. Yeah, if you must use a pie chart, no more than 5 slices of the chart. And here is a creative example of a pie chart showing you the proportions of fat, protein, and carbs in your cereal. And then the heat map chart is a really good one because it enables you to put a lot of information in one place. You can have a Excel sheet, for example, and you can just use conditional formatting, and that helps you to create a heat map. And this shows you fatal crashes, and it shows you what time of the day of each month fatal crashes are likely to happen based on factors such as alcohol. And of course, it shows that most accidents and fatalities happen in the wee hours of the night. So between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., you're more likely to get into a fatal car accident. So lots of information showing you like all the times of all the months, and you can put that all together in one chart, and it gives you very quick information in one go. All right, and just to get creative, here are some other elements you can use. A good idea is to use a combination of icons and numbers, because that really stands out and that gives you one, it's very bold in what you're trying to say. Another good one that's used often in infographics is pictorial fractions. So for example, how many people out of how many people were involved in a certain activity. And then of course, maps, and using maps in more creative ways. And quotes are always a good idea. They add that human element, because what people say about data is that it, you become just a number. But sometimes adding quotes brings back the human aspect of it into your visualizations. And this is an example that I really like. I have a good friend who works at this organization called Afrobarometer, and they do surveys across African countries, and they measure opinions on topics such as democracy, like what do people feel about that. So as you can see, it says, let the people have a say. And they've been doing it for a number of years, and they have really great data sets. The issue is that the data sets, I think, are available as data files or SAS files, which is not accessible to a lot of people. But of late, they started using Infogram, and they started creating these simple infographics and posting them on Twitter. And what I heard was that their engagement went from 4,000 followers to over 12,000 followers in just a few weeks, right after they started using these visualizations, and they had a lot more engagement. People were coming and commenting and having discussions, and so it was so much more effective in getting people to have discussions about these important issues such as corruption and accountability. So here you can see they've used a stacked bar chart, which is one of the ones I mentioned. In the next example, they have just used an icon and a number, another thing that I mentioned. You can see that it's very simple to understand, right? It says 67% of Tunisians say the level of corruption has increased over the past year. You know, it's big, it's bold, you don't need to go into the report, it's easy to understand. Here's another one showing you a type of donut chart. It's a type of pie chart. And they put a couple of different ones together. They've used really nice icons. It's very clear. The title is very clear. So all in all, it's a very good presentation of what they're trying to show, despite the fact that it's, a lot of different pieces of information. All right, so that was the theoretical part of the presentation. And now I want to show you a little bit about how to use Infogram. And it's going to be a little bit quick because we don't have all that much time, but I do encourage you that you make an account, log in, and try it out yourself. You'll find out that it's actually really intuitive and it's really easy to use, and you can start posting your infographics immediately and making cool stuff like this for your social media accounts. So I'm going to go away from the presentation now. And I'm going to show you the example that we used at Megaphone that Maya mentioned earlier. So we used open data. I basically collected data from Wikipedia. So I went to Wikipedia, and they have a number of tables on different data. So I collected data on life expectancy of every country in the world, the population of every country in the world, and the GDP of every country. So that's all I did. I went in there, I copied the tables, I matched them together, and using that data, we created these visualizations. And the great part about Infogram is that it's very interactive. So it's not just a static visualization that you just put in a report. You can put it on your website. You can put it on social media. And just to show you, you can see the charts, right? So we have a bubble chart, which is one of the ones I talked about. We have a map. We have a tree map. We have a line and a bar chart together. Here we have a alluvial chart, which is a bit more complicated. I like how it looks, but a lot of people don't understand how to use it or read it. And it's one that I made on raw graphs, which is one of the tools I mentioned earlier. So in this case, it's only an image. So I copied the image from raw graphs and I pasted it here to show that you can bring in visualizations from other programs and put them into Infogram. And over here, I have a little GIF of Homer with a megaphone to show you that your visualizations can also have videos, it can have GIFs, it can have any of these more interactive elements in it as well. And to show you some more of this interactivity, you can see here that we have a chart. There's a number of charts on the screen. So someone might say, oh, I can't really read these numbers. What's cool is that you can just hover your mouse over any of these bubbles and it will give you the exact numbers of those bubbles on the X and the Y axis. So that's really cool. It makes it even more clear. You can see United States, what's the exact GDP, what's the exact life expectancy, and the population. And you can do the same for the countries. So you can just hover your mouse over any country and it will give you that specific value. You can even zoom into the map further for these tiny European countries. And there you go. You can see the GDP of Luxembourg. And what's cooler is that you can also turn on or off different elements of the chart. So for example, if I do not want to see the values for Africa, I just click on it. And you can see that now it's only showing you for the 4 other continents. And even the scales have changed to match it. So Africa is on the lower end, so it makes the scale longer. And Europe is on the higher end. So if I turn off Europe, it didn't change much. I turn off Asia, changes this way. Turn off Australia, and you can just leave, for example, Africa on the map. And similarly here, I can turn off the bar chart, or I can turn off the line chart. I have to bring the population back, and then turn it off. And in the tree map, you actually have different tabs you can click on. So I picked the top 10 countries by GDP. And so if I click life expectancy, it shows you just the life expectancy. And if I click population, you can see just the population. So really nice interactive elements that make you feel more involved with the infographics. And to show you what it looks on the back end, this is what Infogram looks like. And this is the chart that we created. So there's many different elements to it. If you click on a chart, it tells you what chart type it is. And then if you click over here on edit data, it enables you to put in your data in a spreadsheet format. But let me show you how to do it just from the beginning, and then you can, we'll come back here to show you how that works. So this is, once you create an account on Infogram and then you create a new infographic, it brings you here. This is a blank infographic. There are actually a number of templates that you can use that are already set. And I can actually just show you some. So we're just going to open Infogram again. And so, for example, if you're not feeling as creative on a particular day, you can use so many of these themes that they've already created, these templates. Some of them are really nice. You can just click on a template, click on use, just give it a name, and then it will give you that template, and then you can just change the data and do that for whatever purposes you need. So you can see here, there's some really nice ones. But there's not just infographics. You can also create reports. You can have report titles. You can create any type of reports. Here's a modern magazine. You can create dashboards. So if you're using it to monitor your data, for example, if you have a Google Sheet that you update regularly, then that data can feed in here and update your dashboards regularly as well. So you could have it on your website, and anyone coming to your website can get real-time information through these dashboards. Excuse me. And then they've also created posts that are suitable for different social media. So here are posts that you can use for Facebook, right? So some of these are really nice. You can just put in your text and then add them to social media. So as I said, what I did was I created a blank infographic. So you can just click on this area that shows blank template, and then that will bring you to a page that looks like this. So this is if you want to start from scratch completely. And the main options are that you can change the size of your infographics. So don't feel like you're restricted to the size that it gives you. You can use any infographic size. It can be landscape, it can be portrait. You can add a background image. The only thing to note is that if you are on the free version, that it will have the Infogram logo at the bottom. If you upgrade, then you have the option to put in your own footer, but if you want to go free, then the logo of Infogram will remain on the bottom. So this is the page that you start out in. And on the left-hand side here, you have a number of different elements, which I'll go through. The first one is text. So of course, you need to add text at different times, whether that's your title, whether that's body text. So it gives you many different forms of text that you can add. And it works just like any word editor. You can just double-click to edit it and type in, this is my first infographic. And then on the right-hand side here, you have a number of options. You can animate it, so you can have it bounce across the screen. You can change the font, you can change the size, you can change the height. It's extremely customizable, so you can make it in any way you want. The next option that you have to choose from is the charts. And Infogram is so great. They have so many different kinds of charts that you can use, even on the totally free version. So we can go through a few of these. Of course, we have the line chart, which we discussed briefly. You have a number of different types of bar charts. You have a basic bar chart, you have the stacked bar charts, you have grouped bar charts, you have a radial chart, which is just a bar chart that's spun into a circle, and you have a 100% stacked bar chart, which means that the stack goes all the way on both sides. And similar to the horizontal bar charts, you have the vertical column charts, which is exactly the same thing, but they are vertical instead of horizontal. You have a Gantt chart, which is very useful for project management. A lot of the times, people will ask you to give a project plan and then to plan that out in weeks and months using a Gantt chart. And then we have our lovely pie charts. You have a pie, a donut, a regular, and a semicircle pie chart. And then you have charts that combine the two elements. So as I showed before, you can have a bar chart and you can have a line chart on top of it. Then you have different types of area charts, stacked area, 100% stacked area. You have scatter plots, which as I mentioned is a relational chart, and the bubble charts, which are a type of scatter plot. So you have the bubble chart that we used in the infographic. Here you have a couple of pictorials. So you can see here it shows you, in this pictorial one, it shows you little human beings, and in the next one it shows you little stars, but you can actually use any icon you want. You can use cars or dogs or people, any kind of icon that you want. Then you have a pyramid chart, you have tables, you have gauges which are animated, you have progress bars, you even have word clouds, so you can put all the words and then it shows you which ones show the most. You have tree maps, and then these are of course a bit more complicated types of charts, the candlestick and the waterfall. And you can have a timer, and down here you can have facts or figures. So you can see you have a lot of options from what you can choose from. And all you have to do is click on the chart that you want, and that will insert the chart into your infographic. And once you click on the chart, on the right-hand side, you'll see that it gives you options to edit the data. And if you click edit data, it brings you a spreadsheet where you would put in whatever data you need, and in real time, it will update the chart. But you also have the option to use Google Sheets, to use Dropbox, to use other sources of information that it can directly pull that information from. And then moving on, we have on the menu, again, we have maps. And for free, you can use the world map and any continental maps. If you want to use maps that are at a smaller scale, like by countries, you might have to upgrade. But continents and the world are totally free. So let me just delete the line and add in a world map. And here you have the world map. And similarly, all you have to do is click on it, edit the data, and you just need to edit the value. So where it says value, that's where you would put in whatever data you have, and then automatically the map will get updated. And the most important thing to know here is, I think, the map properties. So here we have a heat map, but you can also have, a map by icons. So if I click on icon map, you'll see that instead of countries, it shows you icons, and you can change the icons to, be a person, and then it maps it like that across the map. It looks a bit untidy, but you can clean it up a little bit. Somehow, not the best that I use. But going back to area map and heat map, you can change the color, so that's quite important. If you have a variable that doesn't have very big differences, then the color can appear the same. So here on the hot color and the cold color, you can change the colors of your maps, and you can adjust by how much the difference of the colors is. So that will change your gradient at the bottom. That's kind of the most important thing to know. And then, of course, you can add graphics. They provide a number of free graphics which you can use. They're not copyrighted. You can use them for your purposes. But you can also upload your own images. So if you go to My Uploads, you can upload images and put them into your infographic. Moving along, we can use different types of shapes. So you can, just like on PowerPoint, you can add any shape and customize it as you want. And lastly, there are a number of integrations. So you can, I got the GIF from Giphy, the megaphone. So you would just click it, and then you can put any word that you're looking for, and you can add that GIF directly into your visualization. Or you can add videos, you can add pictures, you can add a slide share. So really, there's just so much you can do. You can also use Google Analytics to see how many people have viewed your presentation, for example. So really powerful, really great tool. There's probably more that we can get into that I'm happy to talk about maybe at another time. I don't want to cross the time we have, but really give it a go. It's really easy to use, and once you're done, you can just click on share, and it gives you a number of options to share it. So you can view it online, so that just shows you what you created, but you can share it on any social media. You can embed it onto your website. For example, I use WordPress, so I just take out the code from here, paste it on the website, and then it shows up on my WordPress site. And you can email it to someone, or you can track it, but that's for upgrades. So yeah, so super easy to share, super easy to use. Give it a go and let me know what you think. If you need any help or if you get stuck, you can reach me at my email, which I will provide. And yeah, so that's what I have for Infogram. Going back to the presentation, I just have a few best practices to discuss. Oh, sorry, wrong button. All right. So the first part is to know your audience. I know we say this so many times, it's become cliche, but it's really important because, for example, I just had a meeting today and I met with an organization that creates visualizations for governments, for agencies here, and they found out that they actually can't even use bar charts because there's some people here in Uganda who cannot read charts at all, and so they actually use more of illustrations to show the data that they're trying to show. So they know that their audience are people with lower literacy who wouldn't be able to read charts, so they have adapted to their audience. So really know who your audience is, understand what kinds of charts they can read. So perhaps you wouldn't use a combination of a bar chart and a line chart on top of each other if you know that the audience you're trying to reach is not that data savvy. So just keep it in mind whenever you start creating a visualization. Have someone in mind, a persona, that you are aiming this at, and ask yourself, would that person understand it? Would they appreciate this? And then build from there. The other one is show, don't tell. Sometimes you see visualizations that just have so much text all over it, and you wonder, did you really want to use a visualization? Maybe this should have just been a text. So your visualization should be clear enough that you don't need to tell the whole story to go with it. You can just show the image and people understand it based on what you've shown. Another big one is prioritize your typography, because the kind of text you use really makes a difference in how it appears to your audience. So pick texts that are more simple for people to read. Don't use a number of different texts. Try to use the same font, put it in a, arrange it well, and make it a font that's really easy to read for anyone who's viewing your visualization. Another big one is simple color schemes. So the choice of color really makes a difference in how good your visualization will end up. And none of us, not many of us are design gurus that this naturally comes to us. So one of the cool tools that I have found is colors.co. And it's totally free, and it's a generator that creates color schemes for you. So you just log onto the website, start generating, and it starts giving you different color combinations. And if you don't like it, you just press the space bar and it'll give you another color combination. And if you do like a color, then you just lock that color in by clicking on that color that you like. And then it will just start rotating the other 4 colors to match the color that you do like. So that's an easy way for you to get the colors that you like. And if you see at the bottom, it has the codes for the colors that you can then put into any editor that you're working on. Another big one is don't do 3D. Why? It's because when we look at pie charts, we are actually looking at the angle. So we're using the angle to determine the difference between the different pie slices. And if you use 3D, you'll see that actually the volume changes and it's not the same as a 2D chart. So it's actually giving you wrong information. And also the fact is that it doesn't really add anything to your visualization. It doesn't make it any better. So as much as possible, I would say avoid it. You can see here in this example, in the 2D chart, it shows you Muslims are 29.7% in the world. But if you look at the 3D chart, it makes it look like Muslims actually are a much bigger proportion of the entire chart than they actually are. Another one is here, and it's just so bad. I just don't even know what's going on here. But just, yeah, don't do that. Another tip is clean it up as much as possible. So take out background lines, take out legends that are unnecessary. Just make it as clean as possible, because you can really see that here on the chart on the right. It looks so much cleaner and more visually appealing. Another example is here. There's on the left side, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of information, there's logos, and it's just really busy. But when you have a lot of information on a vertical bar chart, sometimes it's easier to convert it into horizontal, because then you can put in the full name. It doesn't take up a lot of space per bar, and it just looks a lot cleaner and more clear. Here's another example really of overkill. You can see that when you have all these lines and grids and legends, it's just not appealing, versus when you clean it up, it looks much better, more memorable. Remember your labels. So as much as possible, I know this is contradicting what I said previously, but as much as possible, label what you can without this kind of overkill happening, right? So at least, have your legends, have your titles. I think a lot of people forget to put the titles on the visualizations, but just remember that label your X and Y axes so people know what it is. So just keep that in mind as well. And lastly, thou shalt not mislead. So data visualization is a great way to mislead people, because of course you're just looking at it, you're giving it a quick glance and making decisions based on that. But if you don't look carefully enough, you can be easily misled. Because if you look at this chart, it says gun deaths in Florida, and it looks like there was a peak and then it's, lowering. But what you actually see is that they've actually flipped the y-axis so that the zero's on the top and sort of at the bottom, and it's completely confusing in that sense. So this really looks like it was made to mislead. Here's another example. Over 100 million now receiving federal welfare. And you look at the chart and you're like, whoa, from 2009 to 2011, this is insane. Look at this. Look at how much it's risen. But then what you notice is that the y-axis does not start at 0. It starts at 94 million. And so when you're covering that small value between 94 million and 100 million, of course the difference is going to look huge as compared to if you had it starting from 0. So again, this is a misleading chart. If you had it starting from 0, the difference wouldn't look as big as it does here. Another good one from Fox News, if Bush tax cuts expire, it looks like the difference is massive, but again, the y-axis starts at 34. So it's only a 4.6% difference, but here it looks like it's a 90% difference. And yeah, that brings me to the end of my presentation. And let me ask if I have time to do the quick Kahoot.
Please, please do.
Please do. Okay, it'll only take 5 minutes because I think there's just a few of us here anyway.
Yeah.
Alrighty, are you guys ready? Do you have your devices?
Because yeah, guys, everybody, sorry, I didn't mention this in the intro. Please take it's going to be best if you take your phones. And NEEMA is going to share code, but you have to first go to the website called Kahoot. Maybe we can, in the chat box. NEEMA, can you share your screen? Because so people know how to spell it.
Yep. All right, here it is.
So just write in, yeah.
All right, let's get started. So there's going to be a code for this game. So once you go to kahoot.it, it's going to ask you for a code. And this is the game pin. So just enter that code and then your name will appear on the screen. And I think once we have 4 or 5 people, we'll get started.
6, 5, 3, 0. Nickname.
Yeah. Will anyone join us?
Oh, Milia, you don't have to download it. You can just go through your browser. Kyle is here. You can just open your browser on your phone. Anka. Oh, there's Anon. Anonymous. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Like 5 more seconds and then we start.
10 more seconds.
Oh, it's Milian. Milian is joining.
Who is?
Milian.
Okay, we will wait.
Yeah. Waiting for one more.
Anony. Should we get started?
Yes, let's do. I want to win.
All right, and is there a prize?
No, not this time, because we can't.
Just glory.
The prize is, eternal glory.
Okay, let's get started.
Yep.
All right, the first question is, what is your instructor's name? And pick the corresponding color that corresponds to the answer. Woo! Well done, guys. Off to a good start. Okay. The second question is, what kind of chart is a bar chart?
What?
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, moving along. Kara is on top. What kind of chart is a scatter plot? Well done. Getting there. Okay, Anka has now taken the lead. How many slices should a pie chart have? Aha, well done, guys. Cool, cool. Why do we need data visualization? Read them well.
It's cheaper to print, definitely.
Woo! Well done. Well done, guys. Okay.
Yeah, second, please.
If I want to use maps in my infographics, ... Guys, you're doing so well. So proud of you. Okay. What is or are some simple visualization platforms? Cool. Looking good. Who's on top? Okay.
Oh, come on.
The more information on my chart, the better. True or false? This is a bit tricky. What is the right answer?
You cannot trick us.
Good job, guys. All right, we have one last question. Bonus. This is your time to catch up. Which emoji is the most used on Facebook? All right, who is the winner? Anka.
I was catching up. I need like 2 more questions.
Not bad. Good job. Okay, congrats, guys. And that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I am now open for questions.
Yes, please. If you have any questions, post them in the chat box, and I'll just read them out loud so that everybody hears. Because I don't think there were any during your presentation.
Cool.
Anka has a question, in fact, apart from my why did she beat me, which is your favorite personal software for everyday use, NEEMA?
Good question. I think Google Sheets. I always have a Google Sheet window open doing something on it. So I think it's very powerful and easy and free. So yeah, I would say that's my everyday use.
Kyle agrees. I had a kind of related question in terms of, because this is data visualization for beginners. And I was wondering, based on your experience working with NGOs or like basically with people who don't feel as comfortable using data or like data tools, even though the infogram looks amazing and I'm going to use it tomorrow to do my report. But from your experience, like what would be, if somebody wanted to start using data visualizations, what would be like the best first step? Meaning, is it doing an infographic for a Facebook post, or like an easy win?
Yeah, I think so. From my trainings, I think infogram tends to scare people a bit because it looks like there's a lot going on. So when you first log in, there's menus on the sides, and I can see people getting a bit overwhelmed with the options. So an easy first step is something like Canva or PictoChart, because it's much simpler, right? So you just put in a picture, put in some words, put in a number, and I think that's an easy first win as visualization. So I think I've had a lot of success with people using Canva to post online. So I think that's a good gateway drug.
Yeah. Any more questions, anyone?
No. Any tips on how to prepare data for simple things?
Yeah, so Anka asks, or maybe I'll ask Milan's first, although it's off topic.
Let me put in my email. So anyone who wants to email me, my email is NEEMA, NEEMA, @policy, POLLICY.org. And I have a question here from Anka that says, any tips on how to prepare data for simple viz? And yes, I do have a tip. And my tip is pivot tables. Life-changing. Once you use a pivot table, you're not even the same person again. It's just whole new you. So whenever you have a lot of data, I definitely suggest pivot tabling it up, and then that simplifies all the data, and then it's so much easier to take that into any of these other online free tools that you can use, because sometimes they don't take in, just aggregate the raw data. Sometimes you do have to clean it, and you do have to simplify it for Infogram, for example. So definitely, I mean, it's a one-click situation. Click on the data, insert pivot table, and from there you can come up with so many different combinations of tables that you can then feed in to these platforms.
Pivot tables, great. All right, everyone, a chance for a last question, because we're approaching 6:30. We already did, but maybe last chance to drink from this fountain of knowledge. Maybe my last one would be, I know it depends on what you want to show, but like your top 3 favorite data sources.
Data sources. Clearly Wikipedia. What are my top 3 data sources? I don't know. I think it just depends on what I'm doing and where you find it. Because a lot of the times the data I want is not available, so just gotta hunt it down somehow. Yeah, I mean, at Policy we collect a lot of data, so that's one of my favorites, is data that I've collected, because I have full control over what information I get, what kind of information I get, then Wikipedia. Other than that, there's a number of open data sites. I feel like, websites like World Bank posts a lot of information. There's another website called the Center for Humanitarian Data, and they're working on interoperability between different data sets, so I think that could be another good source that's coming up for data. But really, yeah, it comes down to what I'm trying to do.
Right, of course. Okay, NEEMA, thank you so much. It was amazing. I learned a lot. Yeah, Caro, it was for me too interesting to learn that bulldogs are so overrated. So thank you so much, and like I said, we'll be posting this recording on the Megaphone website, and I'll put the link along with NEEMA's email, if that's okay, on the Facebook event page, so you can contact NEEMA if you have any additional questions. But yes, thank you so much, and have a great evening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.